Greetings and welcome to my studio. Today we're going to be using golden fluid acrylics and prismacolor brush tip markers. So I have an initial sketch of our Baltimore Oriole here, and the first thing I'm going to do is just lay out, I'm going to block in some colors with the prismacolor marker. And I have a general idea of where everything's going to be. And all I want to do at this point is just get this color on the paper. And we are using a Strathmore mixed media paper. I believe it's their 400 series. And we're just gonna fill in all this yellow. We're not worried about shading, we're just worried about getting this color on there. And the color we're using right now is called yellow ochre. But a lot of times I just grab a color and test it, and if it looks good, looks like what I want, then that's the color I'll use. So that will be its chest. We've got that. And then let's shade in. I've got a 20% gray. And I'm also going to grab a 50% gray. So let's take the 50% to start. In any areas that are going to be darker, maybe black, let's at least get those on there so we know where they're at and we don't lose them. So its eye is going to be right there. And the edge of the beak. It's going to be about right there. And some of the edge of the black feathers are going to be through there. And a couple of these areas. Just want to get some lines there so we know where they're at, because when we add this 20% gray, might cover up some areas. We just don't want to lose those. Okay, that looks pretty good to me. That's at least the important areas. And then I'm going to take this 20% gray. I'm just going to go right over the top. And we're running out of ink for that marker, so I've got a 30% I'm going to switch to. I think what we'll do, we've got some white wing bars that are going to be through here, but right now I'm just going to cover that. Sometimes it's easier just to block in the closest color and worry about the rest in a little bit. So that gives us a good general idea. And I might very quickly just shade in a little bit of its beak. All right, then the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take some quinacridone red, and I'm also going to take some titanium white, and then I've got my mop brush here, and I've got some water. And what we're going to do, I've got some dried colors on here. We're going to take a little bit of that quinacridone red and that titanium white, and I've got quite a bit of water in there. And we're going to lay out some background. I'm going to make this pretty light, at least to start with. And I'm going to kind of squeeze off some of that water and see it just dripping off there. So it's really, really loose. So, okay, let's take some of this color and little X motion across. It's almost like watercolor. I'm just going to add some faint pink shading around the bird. I'm doing this right now because I want to do a lot of work on the bird. We might go over the top of the bird just a little bit. And I don't want to do that after we've done a lot of work on the bird itself. So I'm doing it right now. Grab a little more of that pink and some white. And we want to get that same consistency. Really watered down. I'm just kind of getting a lot of that off of there. And I'm going to pick up some more white. And I'm going to grab even some more. We're going to make this a little bit lighter. We're going to blend some of this. This is a little bit thicker as I pick up the white. And what we're doing is starting to blend some of that, the edge of that pink that we just put in. Just making some of those transitions a little smoother. I'm kind of keeping it all go the same direction, and that's just for preference. Kind of like it that way. And this is a little bit richer, and we're going to make the edges pop out a little bit more. So these edges are a little bit rougher, but that's okay. We can fix that. I'm going to take some more white and get some more white. I'm going to kind of wash my brush here. I'm going to grab some white. I'm going to go right over the top of some of those edges. That's what I talked about. You can fix that. You can start blending that back together so those edges are a little bit softer. Okay. So, the next thing I'm going to do is get this a little bit further saturated around the bird. So I've got a 70%. I'm going to go around that eye. And I'm even going to color in that eye with a 70% gray marker. And then I'm going to take the 50%. This is going to be pretty dark through here. I'm just going to start filling in this with this 50% marker. And just like this, I'm going to go through and I'm going to kind of go around some areas that we want to have white. And I'm just going to keep filling this in. And I'm going to add some lines through here where we want those wings to go. And I'm going to keep going with this 50% and then I'll slow it down again when we get to the paint. Okay, so what we've done thus far is just used marker, and I used some 70% around the head and the rest is just 50%, and I just filled in, blocked in those areas that are going to be darker. So I think the next good step is I'm going to take some white with a liner brush, and this is our golden fluid acrylics, and I'm going to start going through and adding those highlights that I want. So I'm going to have just these white wing bars. We want to start getting them established. Pretty easy stuff. And then we can also take our black and start going through the areas. We know some of these areas are going to be darker. So just start filling in those areas that we think are going to be a bit darker. And I can go back and mix. This is kind of a gray now. I got some black on my brush. And there's going to be a highlight in its eye. And so basically we're just going to go back and forth, and I'll grab the black again. And let's go right around the eye. And I'm going to kind of lose the eye, at least the outline of it. I'm going to wash my brush. I'm going to pick up that light gray again. And I'm going to add kind of an eyelid around the eye. Just like that. Now we got kind of an outline around the eye. Then I can take some black. I can go inside the eye here and darken that up just a little bit. now our eye starts to pop out a little bit. And this is pretty watered down paint, so I'm going to grab some more of this black. There's going to be areas that are darker. So I'm just going to start going over the head. Again, this is pretty watered down. I dip my brush in the water again. Pick up some more of that black. And I'm really going to darken that head up. And I'm mixing kind of some gray, not too dark, but a little bit darker than what we have on here. I'm going to start defining these wing feathers a little more. And this will just be a process that I'll go back and forth. I'll keep looking at different areas. What can I fix? There's going to be some areas in here that are going to be darker. And I'm going to pick up some water on my brush again. Really thin that out. That's just going to make the same color, just not as dark. And then what I'm going to start doing is make some thinner strokes and thinner strokes, a little bit thinner paint. And we're going to get lighter as we get closer to the back. Just to give it some highlight right through here. And we can start doing the same with these wing bars. Actual wing primary feathers right through here. We start darkening those. I'm going to pick up water to really make that paint flow. Very watery paint. This is almost like watercolor when you're painting on this paper. And I might lose some of those highlights in the middle here. But that's okay, because then what I'll do is I'll wash the brush. I'll go to our white, get some water on the brush, get that paint to flow nice. And we're going to have to start going through here very carefully. Start adding those highlights back again. And we'll just go back and forth. Some whites, then the blacks, whites, the blacks. And then what I'll do here is I'll take some yellow and I'll add some highlights through here with my yellow. And I'll take some burnt sienna and I'll add some shades right under the wing through here. And maybe a little bit up in here. And so I'm going to keep going, and then I'll slow it down, and we'll do some more around the outside of the bird and finish up some of the highlights on the bird. Okay, so now our bird is looking pretty good, and there's still work to do on the beak and maybe the tail feather And I could probably clean up a few areas around the wing, which I'm probably going to do. But we're going to put something on its feet now. And so what I want to do is, I've got a filbert brush, and it's thin on one side and thick on the other. I'm going to take some white, and this is pretty thick paint. We want it to cover. And what I'm going to do is, I'm just kind of thinking of where I want. I'm going to start adding the indication of some flowers, and we're going to put some flowers on the branch that it's sitting on. And let's add a little bit of gray. I'm just going to pick up a little black, not much at all, just so we can see that just a little bit. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take, I have some cerulean blue here with some yellow. We're going to make some green. And we want some leaves coming off of here. And I'm just trying to think about where I want these. Let's start by putting one right there. Let's put another one right there. And this can be kind of however you want it to be. Let's put another one. You kind of twist that filbert brush right at the end to make that point. You know, I really like these leaves, so I'm going to get a little more of that color going. I'm going to keep adding some leaves here. Let's do one right there, and one right there. And we're going to do some more up through here. Now these can be any way you want, like I said. We're going to end up putting a branch through here too. But this is easy for me to envision just the way it's going, so I'm just going to keep going with these leaves just to get us started. And I think we'll put a couple right there, and one right there. And let's do a couple more down here. All right, that looks pretty good. I'm gonna wash my brush. I've got some different colors on here. I've got some raw umber, some black, and some white. That's gonna give us a gray, and I'm gonna take some more of that raw umber, and I have some burnt sienna. So raw umber, burnt sienna, white and black. And it gives us kind of just a gray, a little bit of a reddish to it. And we're going to put our branch. And let's have another branch coming off there. And when we get to the bird, we're going to have to be careful. And if you go over it, you can paint over it. Let's have that branch go up there. And it's going to be about right in there. And let's have another branch. Coming out that way. And his foot's going to be right there. We got to have something for his foot. Got to be standing on something. So let's have another branch coming out this way. Then I'm going to take my finger. We went over the leaf there, and I can just kind of rub that away. And we can cover up some of those sloppy areas where we covered up the leaves. But for now, I'm just going to keep going with the branches. Watch that. Go right over the leaf before it dries, and take my finger. I can get rid of it. And we might have to touch it up as well. But I wanted to get those leaves on there just because it's hard to paint that green over the top of these darker branches. So let's switch to my liner brush again. Just so I got some more control. And that works just as good. And we can kind of clean up a couple of these areas. So it looks pretty good. Let's keep it just like that for right now. Let's add this branch here. Since we started it. Get some more water on my brush. Yeah, just like that. That'll be just fine. And let's add a couple branches off of that. And just a couple indications of some stuff going on here. All right. I can wash my brush and I can go back to that filbert. I can get some thick white on here again. I can start playing with some flowers. See if we can cover up some of those areas we didn't like. And it's hard to see the edge of those flowers for right now, but we'll add some detail to them and kind of make those pop a little more. So wherever we got some leaves, we're going to add the indication of a couple flowers. Right there. That'll kind of go right over the top of that one. That's fine. Any area that was sloppy, look at that. We just cover it right up, and you never even knew. So that's starting to look pretty cool. I'm going to take some more white. I'm going to keep going with these flowers. You can put them almost anywhere. Now we're just going to get creative with this. So we'll put some indications of this stuff, just kind of a little hint of it down in the pink here. Maybe some are just kind of faded in the background. You know, you can't quite see them, but a little indication that they're there. You see how that just starts to distract your eye away from any imperfections you have? Just starts to break it up. And we can do that with the green too. So let's mix up a little green. Now I'm going to add white. So we got a really bright green here. Now I'm going to wash my brush. So it's really watered down. Isn't that cool how it just kind of gives that effect that there's something going on behind it. Maybe we just can't see them. It starts to give three-dimensionality to the painting. So that's pretty cool. I like it. And a couple areas where we're going to want to keep going over with the white just to cover that up. And then the last thing that I'm going to do is I'll take my liner brush. We're going to have to work on this just a little more. I'm going to take some yellow with some burnt sienna. And I'm going to pick up some of that gray. And we're going to start to add, maybe these flowers in the center have little yellow X's in them. So we can add these little details of the flowers. And if that's too rich, we can kind of go back over the top with some white, kind of fade that out. So I'm going to keep going, but for the most part, this is pretty well done. And I'll keep adding, I'll work a little bit more on this flower detail. I'm going to have to fix the beak a little bit. But for the most part, we're just about there. So I hope you enjoyed it. If you guys like this, please like and share this video. And please add a comment if you have any questions, and I'll be happy to answer. Thanks again for watching.